when your body talks, listen. And that's what I didn't do for the first 22, 23 years of my life. I was just on go, disregard everything. I need to just stay focused. But now it's like, if I feel that flare coming on, I'ma just sit back and I'ma just let whatever needs to happen without trying to push through it.
On today's episode of Talking Shit, I am speaking with Lewis, who got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis at age 23 in Doncaster, UK. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Let's start at the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about when you noticed that something was wrong, right? Like those first symptoms that crept up for you. How did it all start?
It's quite weird, actually. It was like September time of, I think it was 2024. I literally woke up one day and I kid you not, I could not stop going to the toilet. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit weird. And it wasn't, I don't know how graphic we can get on here, but it wasn't like solid poop either. It was like just yellow, green water. And I was like, I don't know what I ate last night, but I ain't eating that again. And it went into like a week and I thought, okay, and that's when I started searching. I was like, on Google, I was like, how long is diarrhea normal for? And it was like, like a couple of days up to a week is fine. Anything after that, you probably should worry a little bit. So I was like, oh, I'm fine. Then it got to like the 2-week mark. I was like, okay, this is like 20 times a day. And this is when I started bleeding a lot as well. Like, I've always been like a bleeder. I don't know why, but I just bleed a lot. So for like 2 weeks, it was like just blood, mucus, horrible diarrhea. And I was like, yeah, I think there's a problem. So then I called the doctors up. I went in and she went, oh, let's do a stool sample. Because I had no other symptoms. It was just that. I was like, oh, I should be fine. But then I did the stool sample and they got back to me like straight away and it was like, something is wrong. I was like, well, I could have kind of told you that. I am pooing a lot. And she was like, yeah, your inflammation is off the charts. It's like the highest it can be. I was like, okay. She said, come in. I was like, fine. She's like pressing on my stomach. And she's like, are you having any pain? I was like, no, like I generally feel fine. Besides diarrhea a lot, I feel great. And she was like, you should be like jumping off the bed in pain. I was like, I'm not. So that's when it went into like the realm of like, what is going on? Because like I didn't really have any of the symptoms or anything else, like any of the markers for Crohn's, colitis, anything like that. But the inflammation was that high. She was like, no, like something is wrong. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. So yeah.
That's crazy. By the way, you asked, how graphic you can be here. This is called Talking Shit for a reason. So you can just, speak your to your heart's content,
So I was like, yeah, I was just shitting all
for sure.
Time. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, exactly. No worries about that. So that's interesting. So you just said like it just started just like this. So what was it? Literally, I mean, were you going through any stress in your life, anything in particular, or it was just literally you would just complete normal day, normal night. You go to sleep, you wake up, and you have to go to the toilet.
Yeah, literally. And that was the bizarre thing. It's like some people can kind of pinpoint us like, oh, I was kind of stressed at this point, or they could maybe feel it coming on a little bit. Me, I kid you not, I was in the best shape of my life. I was going to gym. I eat good all the time anyway. I don't drink. I don't smoke. Nothing. So I was like, no, there can't be something wrong with me. 23, fit. But then it turns out I woke up that one day and I was just like, it's crazy. My life just went from like normal to just completely different. And it was like, nothing could have prepared me for that moment. But yeah, that's just how it happened, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely an unusual sort of start to a colitis journey, especially like when you mentioned that you were still feeling okay, right? Because for me, like with the first sort of bowel movements, then the first diarrhea, especially when the blood showed up, like there was like some crippling abdominal pain that started right away, right? And then it's just that mix of like diarrhea, but also pain at the same time. So quite unusual. So then talk me a little bit about through diagnosis. So doctor said something is wrong. Did they pull you in for a colonoscopy and then gave you the official diagnosis colitis? And if so, how did the doctor break the news to you? And had you heard of colitis before? Was it all completely new to you?
It was September time I started having the diarrhea, the shits. And then obviously I was like, okay, something's wrong. Then he said, okay, what we need to do is, because they did a blood test, and my blood test came fine as well. So I was like, what's going on with you? So he said, we're going to have to do a colonoscopy. And at first I was like, again, the first 23 years of my life, I was healthy. I never went to the doctors, never went to the hospital. So I was like, what is that? And it was like, essentially, it's a camera up your back end. I was like, huh? I was like, you're kidding, right? She's like, no, they'll go all inside. And I was like, I was so scared. But then they went, with the NHS, it's quite overwhelmed at the minute. It might take a while to get, the procedure done. So I was like, cool. So then it took all the way up till December. So from September to December, I was waiting that time. No medication, because he didn't want to give me anything in case he didn't know what was wrong. So I was like, oh, damn, like, and then I only got in on December because it was like, we have a cancellation tomorrow. Can you come in? I was like, yeah, I guess. So if I didn't get that cancellation, I might have waited another 2. I got my colonoscopy and it was like, looking around, he was like, oh, everything's looking fine. I was like, oh, great. Then he got to one point, he went, would you look at their screen for me? I was like, I don't really want to look. It's a bit gruesome, but he said, please look. I said, okay. And I looked, and I don't know if you know what tar is. It's like black tar. Yeah, and it looks like that in my bowels, and I was like, oh, like, what is that? And he was going through this. It was only one section that was really bad, and he went through this section he couldn't see, and it just got that bad. And I was like, what is that? And he said, it's like you're almost insides are rotting because you're attacking yourself. It's doing this, and I just thought, oh. So then he said, all right, cool. So we can see straight away. I think he told me straight away. It was like, there's active colitis, like it's there, like you can see it. I was like, all right. And then he brought me back out, and he was like, yeah, so you have active procolitis. So it's like, it affects your rectum more, but it can obviously go to further up and stuff. And I had a lot of polyps as well, which obviously I wouldn't have knew. They removed like 2 polyps, and I had one right near my rectum, but he couldn't remove it because it's too sensitive. He said that maybe you're bleeding from the inflammation, but he said you also could be bleeding from that polyp because it just irritates it a lot. So yeah, basically came out. He said, you've got colitis. We're going to do a biopsy, and then obviously we'll get back to you like with further results. But in that moment, it was like, you definitely have colitis. There is something wrong with you. And then he put me onto enemas, and I was like, yeah. That was it.
Okay, so colitis, it's official. Now, how does it progress from here? Like you said, you put you on enemas, but are they helping? Over the next weeks, months, are they adding any other treatment? And sort of how did you settle into navigating this disease?
Yeah. So as soon as I left the hospital, they gave me the prescription, which was Pentasia enemas. And then I also had to take 8 tablets a day as well, I believe, on top of that. So them in the morning, the enema at night. And when they said, oh, we're going to give you some medication, I thought, oh, they're going to give me a few tablets. It turns out I left the pharmacy with 6 big bags of boxes of enemas. And I was like, what are these? What on earth are these things? And then obviously I got to the night time, and my mum was a carer, so she knew what enema was. And I didn't really understand it. And she's like, you have to go on your side and put it up. And I was like, what? Like up my bum? She was like, yeah. And I was like, huh? So then I did it, and it's a really weird feeling, enemas, because when you do it, you're not allowed to pass for 30 minutes, but it feels like you could straight away. So it was like, I did that for around a month or so. And then they helped a very little bit, but not a crazy amount. They helped a little bit, and I found a bit of relief in them. And then I actually went to my consultant, and he said, yes, you've actually got Crohn's colitis. So he said the Crohn's is causing the procolitis down that side. And I was like, all right. So he said, we need to kind of put you on something a little bit stronger, So yeah, and then I went on to prednisone, one of them. And they was pretty good, but I got big moon face, which wasn't too flattering, but yeah. And then I got that. And then further now, after the 8-week course, I'm now on adalimumab, I believe it's called, the injections. And these have worked to treat. I kid you not, I literally feel not my old self, I still kind of feel a bit off. But in general, I feel really good. So yeah.
So in that case, do you consider yourself in remission currently? Are you still symptomatic, or where are you at today?
I'd say pretty much remission. I get nauseous sometimes. The only thing that no medication's been able to stop is the joint pain. I never really had joint pain before, but both of my knees, my elbows, and my wrists, I really feel it all the time. So without the joint pain, I would say I'm like 80% kind of how I was, but the joint pain is really quite bad on me. So
Yeah, stuff like it's like one of those side effects to having the IBD. You know,
yeah,
it's not just focused on your gut or your rectum, but there's all these other sort of well, I don't know if you can call them side effects, but other conditions potentially that
yeah.
crop up. Me, I've been in remission for 12 years now,
Oh,
and
nice.
yet I think I have periods where chronic fatigue sets in, and it just kind of
Yeah,
like hits me
yeah,
like that, for a couple of weeks, and I had to try to make sense of it. I'm thinking like, oh, am I working too much? Is it like the season's changing? But I'm realizing, no, I mean, you still have a disease, that's going on. It's in remission, right? But
yeah.
I guess everybody has their own struggles. But yeah, I'm good to hear that you're managing right now. So you mentioned earlier, obviously before your diagnosis, you were super fit, best shape of your life. Is this something that you've sort of reclaimed now? Did you get that back? And what kind of lifestyle changes have you made, since your diagnosis?
Before my Crohn's, well, my colitis, well, my diagnosis in general. Before that happened, like I was a musician, and I'm so I've always been like a really ambitious person. I work stupidly hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm borderline insane, right? So when I did that and then I got the diagnosis, I was like, it did kind of take a little bit of energy from me. It felt like the task that I was usually doing day to day definitely was taking, I'd say like to do the same tasks, it's like double the effort, but you're still only managing the same amount of tasks. So my mindset is like, I don't want to be defined by this and I won't let it. So my point of view is if I wake up in the morning and I feel a bit off, I'm still gonna do what I need to do. Obviously, if I'm flaring, I need rest. I will rest because my flare ups, when the flare ups do come, they are really bad, and I'm not gonna try power through that because that'd be stupid, right? But on the days when you wake up and you do feel a bit off, I think, you know what? If every single day I didn't do what I wanted to do because I felt off, I would get nothing done and I would just waste my life away. And again, me being such a strong minded person and like I have a dream to I have aspirations. Just because I've got a chronic illness doesn't mean that stops, right? And I always say, just because it's harder doesn't mean it's impossible. So yeah, that's kind of my motto to life right now. I go to gym roughly the same as I used to. I roughly do the same amount of tasks, but it is a lot harder. And I do feel like I need to rest a little bit longer. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm in like a debilitating state. But I do believe that my chronic illness is quite mild in comparison because I do see some people and they are bedridden and people have a lot of complications. Me, I'm only a year in. I've had no real complications, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, I'm just happy with the state that I'm in for now, and I'm going to hopefully continue to try and stay in this kind of state. But yeah, that's my outlook on life, and that's how my life is now. So yeah.
No, that's great. No, I mean, of course, there's always people out there who are sort of worse off, but I'm always cautious to not really compare, one, condition to another. I mean, everybody has their chronic illness that they're dealing with, and especially in the world of IBD. So everybody has their own challenges, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely. Yeah.
it's like we say, so we're all trying to, wake up every day feeling our best. Sometimes it's not possible. But what I'm really seeing is that no matter how dire your situation is with your IBD, like everybody has good moments, everybody has bad moments.
Definitely. Yeah.
Whether it's remission through medication, whether it's surgery, the consensus is when you find what kind of works for you, then we're all feeling better, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're all strive for. So I don't think that any of us needs to make any excuses just because our journey might be milder or shorter than somebody else's. I
Yeah.
think we're all in this. I always say we're all in this shit together, right? And
Exactly.
so
Definitely.
as
Yeah.
long as there's no cure, we're still in it together, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree.
yeah. So you said it yourself. Your IBD journey is still quite young. Over your year dealing with it, how do you cope with sort of this fear that, hey, there might be a stronger flare coming, right? Or maybe the next flare is the one that tips you over the edge, or medication stops working, right? Because we all sort of have those fears. How do you deal with that? And sort of how do you keep hope alive and positivity as you move forward, not really knowing what's going to happen, right?
I think because of the outlook that I have on life in general, I think your mindset can really dictate how you're going to feel also in the future. We can't control flare-ups, we can't control stuff that happens, but health anxiety is real. I do have health anxiety. You know, I'll get a cut on my finger, but oh my God, I'm going to get sepsis. Like I'm a real freak about stuff like that. But I just think if every day I wake up and I really think today could be the day I do flare up, the likelihood of that happening, because what triggers flare ups? Stress. And, you know, we kind of think to ourselves, if I'm in a constant state of stress and I'm really on edge, the likelihood of me flaring up can be quite high. So this is why I said from my diagnosis, I don't get stressed about anything anymore, because they say like stress, you know, you can have all the stress in the world until you get like a health scare, everything leaves and you're only focused on your health. Do you know what I mean? So now I'm at a point where I'm stuck in traffic. Cool. I'll put my music on. I'm sitting in traffic. I'm going to be relaxed. Like any bits of stress I can eliminate, I will. And again, of course, like I really do think about my Crohn's all the time because it's here, you know, it's with me. But again, I don't let it, this is the point I try to make. I don't let it try consume me, because again, I feel like if I did, I'd go down a really dark path. And again, I went through them 3 months of feeling the worst I've ever felt mentally and physically. And it's like, I really don't want to go back there. So yeah, again, a massive flare up could come, but I will take it how I need to. And like, I really just believe that I'll have to just try and stay strong and positive through it, even though being positive can be hard when you're in pain. But yeah, I don't think being overly negative about things can help also. So I think finding a balance is great. And I've got great people, my friends, my family, everything like that. So yeah, I don't worry about it too much. But then when it does come, I'll be like, okay, now I'm a bit worried. So yeah.
For sure. So mind-gut connection, I'm a strong believer that is real, for sure. You mentioned like tuning out negativity. You mentioned trying to avoid stress. Are those two of the main aspects of your outlook on life, or what else sort of composes that?
Yeah, I just think that we become our thoughts, and like when you are thinking so possessively over something for so long, you know, we can create things. And like I say, again, I do have health anxiety. Like even before I got diagnosed, like if I started getting a little pain somewhere, the more I thought about that pain in my shoulder, I'm like, oh my God, there's something on my shoulder. And then I'll search up on Google for days. And before I know it, it's like, oh, I've got a tumor in my shoulder. It's like, no, you might have just gone to the gym and done a bench press and pulled it a little bit.
Yep.
So it's what I'm saying now. That might have even onsetted my diagnosis being in constant like stress and like paranoia. So yeah, now I just really trying to be zen. I work hard, but I don't like it to like cripple me with stress, because I know that again, I don't want to flare up. I'm keeping flares at bay the best I can. So yeah, the mind to gut connection is definitely real.
In what other ways has this disease changed you as a person?
To be a lot more caring. So going back to like the point we was kind of making earlier, like there's different severities to not just chronic illnesses, but people's threshold with things. People are more sensitive to things. Some people can work through things that others can't. And I always think this is about the comparison thing. I kind of took myself away from it now, because just because I might have done 10 things and this person's only done one doesn't make me better and doesn't make them worse. It might have took the same amount of energy for that person to do one thing than it has me 10. So in comparison, we're at the same level. So my biggest, I would say, mindset shift is just be more compassionate towards people, because now it's like I just thought like if I just keep working hard and I'm working and everyone else isn't, like I'm gonna like, you know, I'm this like crazy fanatic guy. It's like, well, yeah, I guess you are, but that doesn't take away that someone just getting out of bed is just as hard as me doing these 10 tasks. And again, I'm thankful for it. Like I am, it might sound a bit crazy, I am more thankful than I am not to have got this diagnosis, because it's made me such a better man. Like I feel like I'm a man now. Before I felt like a boy. I just like, I'd have these mindset things and like, I don't know. It was like a lot of negativity in my head as well. So now I'm a lot more positive on life. And yeah, I just think that we all going through our hardships. There's no competition. It's like having a chronic illness is just an L anyway. Like before we even start, chronic illness is just terrible. What help is it comparing and being like, oh, mine's worse than yours or this and that? It's just like, no, let's just try to be the best we can with the circumstances that we're in. So yeah.
You you obviously are pretty active also on social media, and this is actually how we connected, through TikTok specifically, and you chronicle your IBD journey on there as well. How did that came to be? Were you that kind of a person before your illness as well, or was that something in you that just awakened at that pushed you to say, hey, you know what, I want to share my journey with others. I want to share what it's like to live with a chronic illness, and maybe help people that way. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so it's quite funny, really. So I was a musician, so I was always making music videos. Like I was always out there, I was shooting content. Great. So coming to like the content side of game of things, like I was like a veteran. I felt fine doing it. And then I got my diagnosis, and for so long in my music, I was trying to like almost portray myself as this like lover boy, Mr. Charming and stuff like that. And then when I got my diagnosis, or like when I started having my symptoms, I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed now. Like this whole facade thing that I'm creating, I'm shitting myself. I'm 23 years old. I'm going out and I'm shitting myself. How can I be this Mr. Smooth guy? But then my friend, Charlotte Lorente, he said, you know what? Share your music. That's great. Share the content of your music. That's great. But he said, let people in, because at the end of the day, people want to know who you are. And for so long, I felt almost embarrassed. Like I was like embarrassed about, oh my God, like I now have, it's like a disability. I was like, I'm now disabled. Like how? Like I was fine and now I'm not. So it took me a long time to kind of get to terms with the fact that I'm still me. I'm still Lewis. Hi, nice to meet you. But I do have this thing that's happening inside of me. And then when he kind of said that, he said, start showing more of that. Show more of you. Because like this consumes a lot of my life. So it's like, if people want to get to know me, this is a part of my life. Might like my music. You might think I'm funny. You might think I'm motivational. All these good things. But also, I have a chronic illness, and people out there do too. And the amount of messages that I get is like overwhelming. Like I never thought in my head that even like the funny videos that I do, people message me saying like, this has just got me through my day. And I'm like, the funny video? And they're like, yeah, because it's showing a lightheartedness, but it's also showing awareness. I'm like, oh, right, great. But I didn't think about it like that. I was just pointing it out. So I was like, this is how I feel. So yeah, without my friend just saying, be a bit more open and just really like let people in, because so the point I'm trying to get at is I'm not embarrassed anymore. I'm not trying to hide anything. And this is what I'm saying. This is another tick box for a bonus for me getting diagnosed, because it's like it's made me accept who I am, for who I am. And when before getting diagnosed as well, I bottled everything up, and like I said, I was like quite like an angry person. I don't know why. I just had this like thing against the world. But now like I realize that I am a bit more emotional than I thought, and I do believe I have a form of anxiety, and it's because I bottled up for so long I didn't know this. But it's like it's all just like cracked my shell, and now I'm like coming out of it, and people are seeing me for how I am, and I'm actually helping people, which I don't know, to me is still crazy, but yeah.
So keyword helping people, I like that, because you're right. I mean, so many people out there are not as comfortable as you or I, in sharing life with IBD.
Yeah.
But it's great that they do find the courage to reach out based on what they see, based on what they hear,
Yeah.
based on what it is that we're doing. So if we start with people who have been recently diagnosed, Crohn's or colitis, doesn't matter. They kind of feel lost. They struggle, right? Just starting treatments. Based on what you've experienced, based on maybe the questions that you have been asked as well through social media, what kind of advice would you have for those kind of people? What kind of words of wisdom, in a sense, would you have for somebody who is just starting out on their IBD journey?
Accepting a new normal that you're not used to, and that doing things that you may have done before may not be as easy now. And like in my example, it's like I still can roughly do the same, but just because I'm doing the same doesn't mean that I'm feeling it any less. Like I feel, like I say, I get tired a lot more, need a lot more rest. It's like the wear and tear is like a lot more prevalent now. But yeah, I would say that just trying to accept, firstly, like the point earlier that we made, it's like I was embarrassed about it. I was like, oh no, I can't let anybody, like I hid that I even had it for like the first 3 months, because I was like, I don't want anybody to know this. It's embarrassing. But the more and the more and quickly you do just accept that, you know, you do now have something wrong with you, like, and the happier you'll be, because again, you just don't want to suppress this emotion, because A, it's hard living with it anyway, but trying to hide it as well will make it just as bad. And then, yeah, I would say just accepting that, okay, this is the new me, and now you're gonna have to navigate life a bit differently, and things might be harder, but again, like I said earlier, harder doesn't mean impossible. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that in the moment it can be a bit daunting, but yeah, that's what I'd say.
And you mentioned you had really strong positive support from the people around you. I'm assuming, you know, family and friends. So if we turn it now to the people that know people with IBD, right? People, you know, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, friends, family members. What would your advice be to those people who are, you know, loving and caring for someone who has been diagnosed with colitis or Crohn's? What's their best approach if they come to you and say, hey, so I got this person, I love that person very much. How do I help him? How do I support that person?
Firstly, compassion. Just be so compassionate towards them, because you are so isolated in that moment. From your diagnosis, that person now, we are only here once. We have one life, and I've never experienced this before. You've never experienced it before until you got it. It's our first time, right? So it's so scary. It's so like confusing. It's so isolating. So I'd literally just say, be compassionate and understand that even if we look okay, most of the times we're not. And like a lot of people like, we can't be that bad if you go to gym. It's like, what? I don't even get that argument. Like I went to the gym feeling like shit, but I didn't want to just sit in bed, because that made me feel probably even worse. So I went to the gym and it made me feel better. But it's just like, people don't understand that the difference between looking okay and like actually being okay. Like, you know, 90% of the time I just look okay, but there's something inside me. Or like when I'm in public and I'm like, I can feel like the itch is starting, like I start itching and I get a little bit, and I'm just like, we are really fucking strong people, because a lot of people would crumble under the pressure that we do, the pain, the anxiety, the isolation. And I think that, you know, people just with a chronic illness in general are like the strongest people ever. But a lot of people can look at them as weak, as lazy and stuff like this, but it's like, you wouldn't understand. So I don't even argue with people anymore who don't get it. 'Cause it's like, we're not lazy. You know, we do want to do things if our body allows it, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, just be more compassionate. Be more compassionate.
Compassion being the key word. And I think that's a best starting point as well for somebody to understand it. And I always say, like, be compassionate, educate yourself a little bit as well. You know, don't go down a weird spiral. And then I always think that one of the biggest ones for me was always that let them know you're there, but don't impose yourself either, right? Because we will come to you once we feel better, once we are ready. If we need, or when we need something, we will be there. And I think, you know, it ties into exactly what you said. If you as the person practice the compassion, you will understand all of that, you know, and you'll get it very quickly. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So obviously you've interact with a lot of people, you know, on social media, online, you know, people who have IBD, who might be affected by it, you know. What kind of common misconceptions about like colitis or Crohn's have you come across? So what are your main ones that you kind of like keep seeing, or that sometimes frustrate you or anger you even?
There's a few. I would say the biggest misconception is the IBD is literally just you not being able to hold your poo. And it's like, that's one element, great. But there's so much more. Like, and when, if I tell someone I have IBD, and like, oh, what's that? I kind of just like, I don't really know what to say, because it's like, I don't want to downplay it, but then I don't want to like overcomplicate it. So I'm trying to find like a nice way I can kind of put it where they'll understand it, but then not just come away from the conversation like, oh, just like IBS then. It's like, oh, it's, you know, IBS by itself is hard. I know people with it, it's not a nice thing to go through. But then it's like, for you to just say, oh, so it's like IBS, it's like, I guess it's saying that we both poo ourselves, I guess. But like the problems that come from having IBD to IBS, it's like completely different ball game. So, but then again, that's just people being a bit uneducated. And again, this is why it's good to raise awareness so people understand. When I say, oh, by the way, I have like IBD, you go, oh shit, you know, you got IBD. I bet that's tough. But then for you to just go, oh, so it's like just kind of pooing yourself. It's like, no, like that's like the worst thing you could ever say to somebody. So yeah, that's definitely an element, but it's not the whole story. It's just like a chapter. It's not the whole book. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good point because it actually, now that I hear you speak, when I explain it to people, obviously I try to keep the definition pretty short and pretty easy. You know, I don't want to get into too medical or anything, but it's true that this sort of running to the toilet or the shitting part really takes center stage. But it is so much more. It is fatigue. It is abdominal pain. It is lack of energy, right? Like it is mental struggles, right? And all of that is IBD. Even though the B stands for bowel, yeah, sure. You know, I mean, we might be on the toilet 20 times a day when we're flaring, but there's just so much more going on that is connected to yeah, the shitting part, right? So as we kind of get close to wrapping up here and we sort of covered the past, we covered the present, you know, we want to, you know, look out for the future as well. But I think, you know, we cannot really go into the future without properly understanding the present and also the past. So for like a final moment of introspection, I would love to hear from you if you could go back today to that day that you were diagnosed. And even though back then you kind of already knew what colitis sort of was, what would you tell yourself, you know, on that day that you came out of the colonoscopy and your doctor told you have this?
I think it would bleed into like the point that I kind of made earlier, that it was your normal now is a lot different to what your normal was. And yeah, I thought I was just gonna hop out there and it's like, you know, run into the sunset, you know. But then I quickly learned in like the first month, I was like, damn, like I'm usually doing this stuff and I'm have more energy after, but now it's like I just generally don't have the energy. So I would just say that the the new normal that you're gonna face is something that you're gonna have to learn to adapt to and navigate, instead of just like trying to keep up with the old normal that you used to have. And yeah, again, understanding your body a lot more as well. Like when your body talks, listen. And that's what I didn't do for the first 22, 23 years of my life. I was just on go, disregard everything. I need to just stay focused. But now it's like, if I feel that flare coming on, I'ma just sit back and I'ma just let whatever needs to happen without trying to push through it. Because again, it's not going to end well. So accepting your new normal is the conclusion, I guess.
My final question for you is a difficult one, and I insist on asking it because so far, 100% of the time when I've asked it, there's always been a sense of hope and optimism tied to it. And I always want to end with hope and optimism. So I'm in remission, you're in remission, so we're lucky that we're feeling good, but we are not cured, right? This is sleeping right now, right? Do you think that in our lifetime we will see a cure to IBD?
I think it's a very complex disease, but a lot of complex diseases 100 years ago is a tablet and it's gone today. So I think in our lifetime, yes. I don't think it's going to be very, very soon, in like the next 5 years, but I think if we're maybe talking 20, 30 years, I think that, yeah, again, with how quickly medicine is advancing,
Yeah.
hey, I ain't ever going to worry. I'm just waiting for the day to go, that's cured, give me some, and I'll be happy. But yeah, I do think so, yeah. I definitely do, yeah.
Listen, 20, 30 years, that's a pretty positive outlook. So I'll take it. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely game. Lewis, thanks so much for sharing, your journey and for spreading the positivity. I think some of the insights about how you see your life now as opposed to before your diagnosis, I think that's really inspiring. And I really hope that I can speak to a lot of people as well. From my end, I can just wish you the best. And I really hope that you keep doing what you're doing. I always say, if you can just answer one question, to somebody who's struggling per day, or somebody messages you and says, thank you, that made my day, that is really part of our purpose. And I think that's more than enough. So keep that up, and I wish you nothing but the best in your continuing journey with Crohn's and colitis.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, thank you so much for having me as well. I think what you're doing is amazing. I think awareness is so important in today's age, with a lot of uneducated, borderline ignorant people sometimes. So yeah, I think what you're doing is like God's work. And again, if I can be any help towards that, I'm definitely down for that. And hopefully the cure is coming.
And while we're waiting, this raising awareness and advocating for ourselves and others, that's the best thing we can do. And that's what we should be doing. So
yes.
Thanks so much, Lewis, again. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Colitis Unfiltered. I'm Frank Tabering, and if this hit home or hit your gut, do us a favor, subscribe to the show, and follow us at Colitis Unfiltered on YouTube, Substack, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and Reddit. We'll see you soon for more inspiring stories from the bathroom floor.